I please have the flag?
All right. Where's the
Ed, would you be kind enough to say the Pledge of Allegiance? Ed?
Oh, I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. All right. Joanne, may I all right, so we called to order. Joanne, may I have roll call, please?
This is the May 21st board meeting. Douglas
I
Beebe?
am so sorry, Joanne.
Douglas Beebe?
I see him. Doug, are you here? Oh, sorry about that.
Douglas Beebe?
Yes, here.
Kathy Buckley?
Here.
Michael Hagedorn? Ed Marin? Christopher
Here.
Michaud? Nicole Pupor?
Here.
Mark Sand? Pauline Stone?
Here.
Grant Decker?
here?
And Crystal Palmer.
Yeah, Joanne, Crystal Palmer is present.
Oh, yeah, sorry. You know, I had you checked off. Sorry, Crystal.
No problem.
I'll give you guys a heads up. I have a neck issue and I have a very hard time sitting still. So I may be moving around a little bit and I apologize in advance. May it be resolved that the superintendent of schools recommends to the Board of Education to approve the agenda. May I have a motion, please? May I remind you to raise your hand when you say motion?
Motion.
Thank you, Pauline. Second?
Crystal,
I'll
second.
second.
Oh, we'll give the second to Crystal. Do we have any questions or discussion concerning this resolution? Seeing that there's none, all in favor? Aye.
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 Thank you. Noes, abstains, resolution passes. First, we'll start with presentations this evening. Our topic is the 2020-21 budget update. Our presenters are Daniel Mannix, the superintendent, and Jennifer Parliament, our business manager. You're muted, Dan.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, so let me. Bring forward, just give me a second here. So can you see the budget presentation first slide?
No.
Oh gosh.
For the first time, I can actually see a slide.
You can see it?
I can see it.
Okay.
I could see it.
I
I
cannot.
couldn't see it, now it's gone.
What? So some of you could see the slide and some of you couldn't see the slide?
I could.
Yeah, it wasn't.
It was the drive.
Yeah.
It was your Google Drive that we could see. You could see multiple documents, not the presentation itself, Dan.
Interesting. All right. Well, I probably can get there this way. I really want to go here though. So you could see a slide right now with 3 different things on it, right? 4 different things.
Yep.
And when you click on that, you guys can't see the presentation?
No, we see the same slide.
Yeah, nothing changed.
Does this show
Now
up?
we see Beekmantown Central School District budget.
Yeah.
And managing in something.
Crisis.
You're
Yep.
good.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to need AIS on this later, Gary. Okay, so not starting quite with the budget right now, the budget presentation right now. There's a couple documents that we're going to read to everybody. So tonight we're going to propose for adoption a budget on our current and unchanged allocations. That's an important distinction there. We've been talking forever about the promises of new runs being given to us. At first, there was new runs that were going to be much more favorable to us, and then the crisis hit, and there was new, really damaging runs. But nonetheless, we're still in that same spot we were in quite a while ago. Governor Cuomo did say again today that if he doesn't receive federal monies, he will reduce our spending by around 20%. That can be interpreted many ways. We went over that last week on 20% of what? 20% of foundation aid, 20% of everything. And around 20%, that could be a huge swing if you're at 15 or at 25, right? So the New York State Education Department was notified that for the first time, they need approval to release state aid for our current year by the governor. So the governor has to allow the New York State Education Department to release the monies that have been given to them, the way I understand that. This is the first time that's ever happened. It's the first time they've ever exerted that type of a power or authority, as I understand it. And if this happens, this could, if they were to reduce the aid that's currently owed us for the expenses that we've already incurred, this could have a devastating impact on our expenses, which again are already encumbered. Business Manager Parliament tells me that they currently hold around $10 million of ours. So any reduction in that, again, is money that's already spent and really owed, since we're at the end of the year, owed our employees or our vendors or whomever. So that's a concern. Based on our current understanding, I'm proposing that we budget for a long-term period of adversity. This would include reducing our workforce by roughly 20 current employees and roughly 40 positions after you count attrition, resignations, and other departures. The reductions are basically evenly spaced throughout our buildings and departments. We did, as I mentioned before, we worked with our principals and they did a nice job, and there is a very balanced approach. I know it will result in pain. Nobody will like it, and nobody should like it. And people will always point and say, why this, not that, and that is everybody's right to make those suggestions. But at the end of the day, we have used a relatively collaborative approach to this exceptionally difficult position that I've been in, because I've never been in a situation where we had to reduce force because of financial situations. We will also need to address class size and other data-driven issues moving forward. By budgeting this way, we will be more nimble when we are informed of our final aid number. This approach should positively impact us in subsequent years, but that will all be determined on probably any second wave of COVID and the economic impact to the state and to the education department as well. So not included in those 20 positions is the SRO position. To be clear, we do not have the SRO position in our budget. Their offering and our prior partnership with the Sheriff's Department was at the time the only option available. Now other schools, neighboring schools, and schools within outside the county have much better offerings and more economical offerings, and we need to find a better way to provide the service. I have no ill feelings towards the SRO. I've always thought our SRO were good to very good, and I always enjoyed the partnership with the Sheriff's Department. So while like all reductions, they're painful and people on the opposite end may not like them, but we are thankful for that previous partnership. I do wonder though why the Sheriff's Department doesn't charge. And my understanding, I don't know this as a fact, but doesn't charge the mall or the airport for so much coverage when most schools have so many more Clinton County citizens in them day to day. I think something should be done so that parents and students are at ease with some type of school resource officer. With that being said, I'm going to move to this presentation of our 2020-2021 budget. As you know, our mission statement is something that we embrace fully, and that is that we want to educate every individual to be a quality contributor to society and self, and therefore we have numerous pathways for our kids so that when they leave here, they can go to college and graduate, because it's not done until you actually get the job. It's not just graduating college. Or you can leave Beekmantown and go into the workforce and obtain a job and help you be a quality contributor to society itself. A lot of people are always very concerned about the tax cap, that legislation that's had such an impact on taxes, positive impact on taxes, and then had impacts for sure at school districts. The answer is no. We're at 2.76. That's what we're going to be going out to our community with as a tax cap this year. The taxes we went over last week remain basically under $18 per thousand. And here's what the tax numbers have looked like in previous years and the increases. And you take a look at the first batch of numbers up on the top. Can you guys see my arrow when I move it around over on the column on the right or not?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So if you see those particular numbers, you can see wide range of swings from 12.90 negative 12.8, and really starting in 2013, we really tried to keep a very smoothing effect to have a relatively calming effect on our tax rate, and I think it has. And if you were able to take out the generous pilots and other agreements that are out of our control, our numbers would be much more probably in this particular range. So that's overall a nice smoothing effect that the board desired at the time, and we've been able to accomplish. These are our tax rates, not this year, but last year compared to other school districts in the county. Northern Adirondack's very low. I think I saw today that they're going to be right about just under $18. They're going out at just under $18 per thousand this year. It's a big jump, but they have issues, and we obviously wish their school district well. Sorry about that. So our financial outlook. I'm sorry, I forgot. We'll come back up to it. Obviously, we have major New York State aid issues. Good news is we have lower energy rates. The capital project has actually had a smoothing impact on our tax rate as well. We have grants. There's a new grant I'm going to talk about today. It's small, but hopefully it'll be meaningful. And our Smart Schools Bond Act multi-year plan is going to serve us well and help keep some of the great things we're doing alive and well at Beekmantown. How does the 2020-21 budget impact me? Sorry. This is the unique part we went over last time. And Jen, can you just go over this one more time? Because I'm sure it's confusing to people. Why are homes in 3 of our towns paying less than homes in 1 of our towns?
Sure. Altona, Beekmantown, and Chazy are all at 100% equalization rates. So that's why they all have the same tax rate. While the town of Plattsburgh is at a 90% equalization rate. So their tax rate is at 1802. And why they're at a 90% equalization rate is because we're told that the assessments are not at market value. So we're at 90% market value in the town of Plattsburgh instead of 100%.
And who makes that determination that they're not at market value? Do you know?
The county. Those numbers come directly from the county.
Okay. Thank you.
And may I ask a quick question?
Sure.
Or would you prefer that I wait?
I'm sorry, I thought you heard me.
When you
Yes.
say equalization rate, does that mean that it's so all 4 towns are paying proportionately?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. I just want to make sure that I understood it correctly.
Yeah, just
Yep.
so you see, if you see this something quickly, and hand it over to you, is these are always the rates for all 4 towns. So you look for a number of years, those have been the rates for all 4 towns. And now we're at this. Okay.
Right. Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah, real quick. So would it be easy to say that Altoona, Beekmantown, CSD's assessments went up and Plattsburgh's did not go up last year?
It would be for this current year. And
Or this year?
if some people in the town of Plattsburgh did go up, it wasn't enough. The whole market as a whole, it looks at the whole market, not individual people. The market as a whole is undervalued.
Okay.
Yeah. So we don't have any control over that, you know. We as a district, Jen, it's not our tax.
Mhm.
Doug, did you have a question?
No, it's. I own property in both Plattsburgh and Beekmantown, and for our assessments went up in Beekmantown for the house I live in Beekmantown, but my rental property in Plattsburgh did not. It didn't move at all.
There's some places where maybe they did a full assessment in some of the towns, and then sometimes towns just assess some of the properties, and maybe that's what happened, and not all the properties. Maybe they're not done. I have no information for you, but I do know that some properties were assessed in the town of Plattsburgh.
So to piggyback on this, obviously we got our grievance thing coming up here on May 26th. Is this? Hopefully this is for us. It's set in stone or not? I don't know.
That's a good question.
Well, the equalization rates have been set. I've never seen the assessors go back out after the May dates to reassess and increase people's assessments after the fact. So.
Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jan.
Yep.
Thanks, Jen. So our budget priorities are maintaining an outstanding educational system built on high expectations for our students, all while providing a world-class learning environment, sustainable programmings and offerings. This includes this year maintaining college credit classes, implementing partnerships to enhance other offerings within our school, and carefully reviewing our expenditures to ensure maximum return both professionally and programmatically. Our grant funds, our grant local state funds are good. They're robust. I think, wasn't too long ago where we may have had 3 or 4 of these grants, and now we have many, many more. And this ELT is, if it comes in, and it was in the original budget, believe it or not, as even into the COVID experience. And just recently we became a little uneasy about an email we received, but it could come back in the budget, and that would be $3 more million, but we're unsure right now. So now let's take a look at our state aid, and why don't I turn the next few slides over to Jen, and Jen, I'll just jump in if there's something I can't contain myself and I got to bring up. Okay.
Good. Actually, none of these figures changed since last time. We left them as is because that's what we know as of today. So the foundation aid is flat, as we well know, and everything else is what was on our run from the governor. because he has not made any decisions. We are sticking with this revenue side right now, but anticipating some cuts in the future.
And that's that budgeting for adversity, those cuts in the future. So when I look at what we're proposing, Jen, this is the administrative side of the budget, and not going through every single line, but I think the board and any viewers can see where the particular cuts are, or where the the reductions in different programming. So this just across the board, you're going to be seeing, for the most part, areas where we're going to be doing less.
That is correct. And I think the next slide, yeah, this slide shows the total. So this is the admin total budget at the bottom. So the admin total budget went up by $24,000.
That includes health insurance and salaries and everything,
Correct.
right?
Yep, correct.
And then programming.
Yep.
A lot of and again, our approach was to try to be, it's the same way we balanced the budget years ago, is just try to address areas across the board. Programming continued.
Yep, that's the total of your program. So the total program went up $608,000. And that again includes all your benefits and salaries and contracts and so on and so forth.
And then our capital, sorry.
Yeah. And again, that's a total. So our capital went down $2 million. And again, that's mostly due to the fact that we had a capital project. We paid off a capital project, but there's also some other cuts in there as well.
Any questions from the board on, I know I went through those fast, but any questions on programming, administration, or capital? I know we've been talking about a lot of this for a long time. Okay. The multi-year forecast, I know we showed these slides last time, and we don't put these out for public consumption because they're just a forecast. It's not like a doc. It's not like a completed document. Like our budget is a completed document. There's not, that will be our budget. This is a document that we put out last time. Can you guys see this?
All I see is it says see multi-year forecast docs.
Yeah, it didn't come up, Dan. There you go. You got it.
All right, getting better. We looked at this doc many times. This has been the one that's been on the board, and we were anticipating this number that was sometimes 1.7 and then it was 2.4 for a number of different reasons. It declined, and it is confusing because these numbers aren't even like the state aid number. We've gone over this before, but the state aid number, they're going to tell us they're going to give us X amount of state aid, but there'll be adjustments to that over the year. They're kind of out of our control, like relatively small adjustments. But anyways, so we've seen this one before, but this isn't good news because it's built on reductions of staff, which again are painful, will be hurtful to people, friends, and families will be impacted. Is the multi-year budget on that now? Did we switch?
Yes, it's switched, Dan.
Thank you. So this is the new budget, and our job is to make sure that we're not budgeting, into the red. Dramatically different situation. If you take a look up here and to try to have the numbers not be climbing, 3 million and 5 million in the hole in subsequent years, when you start making reductions, they do have a smoothing effect in subsequent years. A couple things I want to point out to you is in our long-term forecast, we are hoping for a 2% increase in state aid. Obviously, we were hoping for some kind of increase in state aid this year, and we really don't have that. Actually, we have a reduction in state aid if you want to look at it like that. And then if you take a look, we're we've always been around that 1.2, 1.3 area for fund balance. And this year we're going up to 1.6 million for fund balance, because we do have fund balance, and it is there for the term everybody's always used is for a rainy day. Well, this is a stormy day, not a rainy day, right? But you have to be exceptionally careful with fund balance allocations. And actually, I was very adamant about reducing too much, getting into too much fund balance allocation with our health insurance consortium. And I barked at numerous meetings about going too deep, because that can have, you can't get out of a hole if you don't use your fund balance wisely, because there's no area to make up. Like if we were to put $2.3 million, $1 million that we'd have to cut in another year, plus whatever other reductions you have to make. So you got to be very, very careful and try to use that smoothing, gradual amount, so that you don't present yourself with a huge issue in a year, 2 or 3 years out. So if you take a look at 1.3 or 1.2, now we're at 1.6 million. And one of the reasons why we're able to also afford that is this particular school year, it's been nice to have digital teaching and learning, but there's a lot of other expenses that we haven't incurred because we aren't in session, like heating, lighting. There's just a lot of different contractual expenses that we don't incur. So that amount will be there to help us for a very short period of time, but we can allocate some of that into our general fund balance that will help us in outlying years. Jen, do you want to go over anything else here?
No, as you can see, I think we should just point out the revenue on top didn't change. So we didn't, as I explained before, the revenue, we're staying status quo. It's the expenditures that we cut that you're looking at that equal to that zero.
The only revenues we changed were in the outlying years with that fund balance.
Correct.
Right. Okay. So yeah, so now we have reductions in a lot of different areas, and reductions is seen. So you see reductions like there's in the parentheses, that's a negative 500,000 there. And then other areas you might be like, well, that's not a negative, but it was a lot of times it was a larger number and it became a smaller number. So we are at zero for the year with our budget. Now that will change if the governor impacts us negatively with our state aid, either in the 1920 school year or the 20, because that would change these numbers over here, and that would have a dramatic effect on these numbers. Plus, we wouldn't have the money to pay for the things we've already paid for. And then, or if he cuts these numbers and the federal government doesn't, if he cuts deeper than the federal government, then that could then we would have to take a look at our current budgeting for that adversity, because we are budgeting for that adversity. And if we go too deep, would we have to make more reductions, or what will the future hold for us? That's the very unpleasant part of the job, I'm sure for the board and the administrative team, and certainly myself and Jen. Any questions on this particular sheet? Okay. Just give me one more second. So then in our budget, though, this year, and because this is a $100,000, sorry.
You can't see the screen.
So in our budget this year is something that we definitely need to talk about, because when you adopt the budget, can you see me?
We still can't see. You're back on your Google, but we can see the 4 slides.
Oh. Better. So we have in our budget every year a capital outlay project, which is a $100,000 project, and the project is aided at 80% if in fact the governor and we have another capital outlay in our project, as we mentioned before, and this particular project
Oh, thank you.
I feel like we're ready to take off.
Didn't it sound it? I actually thought someone was stealing my car. Phew.
I thought my
All
other
right.
computer was breaking down. Okay.
So we good?
Mm-hmm.
That's the hard part of this because I can't see I can't see what you're seeing. So you all look normal to me, but you were laughing at me. So, so you couldn't hear me either?
No.
No.
Okay. All right.
No, I think it may have had something to do with the fact that you had your screen pulled, you had the display screen for our Google Meet pulled up twice,
Oh,
and there was some type of noise that went with it.
sorry about that.
That's all right. We forgive.
Okay. So the capital outlay, third time is a charm, they tell me. So here we go. It is going to be this year. It's a $100,000 project. We received $80,000 of aid back on that project if our fine governor continues to pay for building aid. And our middle school gym bleachers are very old. They're cracked. They don't pull out well, and they're quite frankly very dangerous. I know that firsthand. So that is our primary goal for the capital outlay project. Now we also talked about a barrier, a wall, or door, double doors at the BES end of the hallway. And we originally brought down the previous architectural firm, and they gave me the regulations, and it looked like it was something we could do. We might lose a classroom or something like that, depending on where you put the doors, because it can only be so far away. But because of the way the other doors are located in the school and where it is in the hallway, they would have to be pushed. They would have to be able to be exited or entered into from the high school. You couldn't lock them from the high school, so they would have no meaningful purpose. It doesn't meet the purpose of putting the doors there. They're trying to lock the doors from the high school entrance. But the good news is we are looking at we try to stack our cap outlays and plan for the future. So one of the good news pieces here is we develop a plan where we can lock those particular doors and shuffle different people around and lock the doors at the end of the hallway right now, so that the high school is secure from the elementary, and the elementary is secure with those big metal doors from and vice versa. So that will cause a shuffle, and there'll be a lot of shuffling going on with all the movements in people and programming. Also, another aspect of a capital outlay is maybe in subsequent years, or maybe we would potentially use capital project fund balance, and that would be a board decision, would be to take the current entrance into the high school. When you enter, you're allowed to enter in through the man trap. That's actually the name they use. It's called the man trap, and enter into the building, and then you check in with Mrs. Turner, who does a fabulous job at welcoming everybody, right? But they're in the building before you have really vetted that person. So if they've developed a relatively simple plan where you build a wall that goes down those first set of doors, and you're not into the building until that person buzzes you in. So you're face to face with Mrs. Turner, whoever will be there, and then you're allowed to enter the building. So it's not you're in and then and we've never had an issue trying to corral somebody, but that's the theory. So it would be safety and security. Again, that might be able to be done with existing balances in the capital project or a capital outlay. But it does meet the needs. I would meet the needs of the high school students and the safety and security of high school, middle school students and faculty, as well as the desires of parents, PTO members, teachers, administration at the BES level. Not going on deaf ears. A lot of it is driven by regulations. We have looked at it 3 or 4 times now, and we think we have a pretty good plan in place. Almost done, folks. Please be aware that we need to take a hard look at class sizes as we move forward. We talked the last meeting a lot about how we really are at the state average for a lot of class sizes, but we need to make sure that that our class sizes are right-sized in an economy like this. 3 committees will be meeting. One new committee, which was formed, is the athletic committee. That committee will be meeting numerous times between now and in August. But I don't know if people saw the CDC recommendations. It does look concerning to have extracurriculars next year, but time will tell, and so will the data. Our safety committee will be meeting numerous times because they will be working on the plans, or anticipating receiving guidance from the governor, and will be working on a plan for what would education look like at Beekmantown to ensure that we are all safe, secure, and learning. So we're going to lean on the board, administration. The safety committee is a very appropriate committee to vet that. So we'll probably meet between now and August 5 or 6 times as well. And negotiations committee needs to re-engage. I don't know if the support staff wants to re-engage. It is awful hard probably negotiating this way, but they may. Good news, we received a grant, it's a smaller grant, $2,500 to help feed our kids, not needy kids, to help feed our kids. And this will allow us to finally do what Mary Blaine brought to the table years ago when she was a business official, and brought to the audit committee, and I know they liked it and talked about it at the board meeting, but allow us to convert one of the outdated buses. When we have 4 buses that we're pulling off the road as we present to the taxpayers to purchase 4 buses, and one of those buses we would then convert into a mobile food. I got to be careful the way I say this because people get the wrong impression here, but it would be a bus dedicated to delivering food to kids. So it's not a taco truck, it's not a salad bar truck or anything like that, but it would be a truck that we would bring and keep food refrigerated and bring to different areas. One of the reasons why is right now we deliver food all over the place, but we have a lot of drivers. It's putting a lot of mileage, and you can only have food in those cars for an hour. Because it's not refrigerated. That's the Department of Health issue. So we're gonna work on that, and we're gonna make it happen. And then graduation. So graduation is coming, and we've been working hard on that, and I want to talk about that in just a second. But part of our graduation celebration is going to start. Oh, this is terrible because does it show up backwards for you guys?
No.
No? Oh, okay. It's not
Grant,
terrible.
is that backwards?
You like that?
I do.
All right. So I figured I could get a yes out of Grant on that, but we have these are going to be going around in the community. We have a very specific plan that so many people have worked on, and I just am super excited about the work, and it's a great way to start celebrating our senior class. So I'm not going to give out any more details, so it'll hopefully be a big buzz, but it's nice that everybody will have their signs. How's that look, Grant? You like that?
Yeah, that's a good looking sign, actually.
Good. So I do want to talk to the board right now. I'm not looking for a resolution. I'm just looking for either your concerns or your support, guidance. When I think graduation, I guess I'll go back a little bit. I think everybody in the area knows that I have been leading the charge on COVID. I have been an advocate to shut schools down, to allow us to teach digitally, to give everybody an opportunity to prove that we can still educate kids in an environment like this across the state. And we've been able to do that at Beekmantown to a high level, and the state has been able to do all the things we were worried about and make them a priority. And now as we see the state or the North Country reopen in phase 1, As you move around, you see far more people out and about. But yet we're still told repeatedly that there's going to be no in-person graduations. And if I had to pick right now on May 21st to do an in-person graduation, I wouldn't do it. The time wouldn't be right. The data wouldn't be right. So it would be a scientific decision, so to speak. But I certainly know that even today on May 21st, and I know that I think this would be true on June 26th or another time if we have to push it back further, we could offer a safe and secure graduation on our premises to our seniors in a select portion of their in-house family. And I'll explain to you how we could potentially do that. Number one, we would propose this to be outside, to be on our wonderful new field. And Principal Bazzaio has done a wonderful job gridding the field out. And when you start gridding the field out and you think, I only have to have there's a graduating class of 150 kids. So we need 150 cubes set all the way across our immense field. And it's exceptionally easy to do, and not in a 6-foot area, right, where it's just you're 6 feet away, but in much larger areas away. Now, people say you can't do that because you'd feel terrible if somebody went to your graduation and had COVID. And they're right, I would feel terrible. But there's a couple things. When I go to Aldi's, and people, we would have proper PPE, people would have to wear masks, and there'd be requirements. We'd have law enforcement. We'd have chaperones. Somebody actually leading you to your seating area. You would park in a seating in a number. You'd park in parking spot 13, and then you would be seated in grid square 13. And we would have somebody actually deliver you there, and there'd be no stopping to hug and say hi to all the people you want to say hi to, unfortunately. But it would bring you to the spot where we can have a graduation. So with all those precautions and more in place, I think about when I go to Aldi's or Lowe's or Walmart, that's allowed right now with more than 150 people. There's no grid, there's no protection, there's nobody making sure people wear masks, there's no law enforcement saying you're going to have to leave, there's nobody ready to shut the store down if people decide not to follow the rules, right? There's a lot of things that happen in our community that are far less safe than what we're proposing. One of which is this weekend, I think the beaches are open, right? And if we're going to allow the beaches to be open, I'm pretty sure at Cumberland Bay or the City Beach, they're going to allow more than 150 people there. So if we're going to allow the beaches to be open without these type of precautions, I'm still trying to figure out how come we can't offer a graduation with better precautions to our kids. It just doesn't seem right. So I'd like to hear your feedback, and I'm sure there's components to this that we thought of that I just didn't communicate, but I can't go through everything. So what does the board feel, or what would you caution Principal Bazzaio, myself on? Grant, what do you think? We're all ears because we want to do something great for our kids, but safe for our kids. And the last thing I just got to bring up before I welcome the feedback is we're proposing a graduation sometime on June 26th or after if we have to push it back. But we're tasked with developing a plan to bring 2,500 people of all ages inside to school some 70 days later without a trial run. So if you're worried about if you're saying you can't have graduation because you might have COVID on my plan, I don't know how you're going to tell me that we're going to bring 2,500 adults into our enclosed school and make that work when you won't trust us to make this work. So I'll throw it out to you, and maybe we can share ideas, support, or concerns.
If you don't mind, I'd actually like to hear Grant's perspective first, if he's ready to share one.
Yeah, I'm good. So I mean, I think that sounds like a great idea. I know Mr. Bazai already did the marking of the measuring with the lines and the boxes, and if those are distanced, I mean, there's, as you just said, there are far less safe places in Plattsburgh that people are going to, and most people have no issue with that. You know, like stores, there's no limit on who goes in. There's no limit on how close you're getting. So, and even in terms of parking, as you said, and you're getting chaperoned to your box on the football field, it's safer than really almost anywhere else in Plattsburgh. Actually, when you think about it, it's probably the safest event. It's probably even safer than going shopping would be. So I'm all for it.
Grant, how do you feel the student body will feel about a limited audience? Because it used to be, I think, and correct me if
10
I'm
people.
wrong, a student got like 6 tickets or something along those lines.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, it's not it's not an ideal
Right.
number, but I think everyone would take that over like an online graduation. Here's your e-diploma, So I think it's, like we'll take the most we can get for
Okay.
sure.
Okay. Does anyone else have anything they'd like to say or add?
Dan, I feel you have gone overboard protecting our teachers, students, and I feel that your plan would work, and that the welfare of everyone involved would be taken care of, because you've shown that you have that as first priority through
It
everything.
is. Thank you, Pauline. It is first priority. It always is first priority. You guys remember me saying for years that if we can keep everybody safe and have a little bit of learning along the way, we're going to do pretty well. So it is. And it's an hour-and-a-half event. And, we're going to be charged with having an 8-hour school day, down the road. So it's when you put them next to each other, it seems like the 8-hour, give us an hour-and-a-half event and see if we can make that work. If we can't make that work, we're going to be in trouble.
I have a couple just points of clarification. So are you talking about having, limited family numbers in these grids as well with students, or would they be in the bleachers?
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, spacing, would they be watching, live stream from their vehicle?
Yeah. So we would ask that we would live stream it. We have the fiber running to the press box. I know they were working on it today as part of the capital project, but we have people live stream and FaceTime, not FaceTime, Facebook, whatever, live Facebook or YouTube, our sporting events. So we would would try to find a couple of vendors or people who can do that. But we wouldn't want other family to be there. So you would have right now, you would have 4 seats inside your grid, and
Okay.
maybe it would be 5 seats, 4 or 5 seats, depending on the safety of it. And those are the people that you get to bring. We wouldn't have people filling the bleachers, teachers, because we still have a really nice graduation where kids recognize the meaningful teacher in their life. They would be sitting around the perimeter of the track or of the grids, and other folks would be asked to watch at home, unless of course we're in phase whatever and they're allowed, if things could change. And I want people to know, like, if the data got worse, and it is not great right now, we were kind of going in the wrong direction in Clinton County. We watch this daily. We would push this back until it got to a better point. And unfortunately, if it got to the point where just the numbers never got better and nobody felt comfortable doing this, then we would have to resort to the drive-in graduation or the e-graduation. And I'm sure it would be good. We would max out everything we could do for the kids.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
And yes, it does. Thank you. I have another question. Just thinking forward, talking about, future allowing students back in the school, nursing needing to do temperature. Would there be temperature monitoring for the graduation ceremony as well?
So yeah, oh my gosh, I didn't think I was gonna have to talk temperature today again because I've talked about it all day. But so we have thermometers coming. I've been
Mhm.
pushing for them, and I guess we got them coming. So on Friday we end up with 10 of those nice laser temperature readers.
Infrared.
Yeah,
Yep.
infrared. Thank you. Your professional expertise there. I like that. Infrared ones. And then we have, I think, 100 other ones coming because, now if you imagine, charged with trying to take the temperature of 2,500 people, you're going to need more than 4 nurses taking temperatures down the road.
Right.
But yes, we would have 10 infrared temperatures. And we had not actually, I appreciate it. I don't know that we had talked about that, Principal Bazzaio, in regard to graduation. We certainly have been talking about it a lot today and in previous days for just coming into the building.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it needs to be considered for the graduation, even if it is in an
No,
outdoor venue.
You're 100% right. You're 100% right.
Yep. Okay. Thank you.
Others?
Did any other questions?
Is there a thumbs down on this? Is there a thumbs up on this? And I was looking for your guidance and your feelings on this because I'm not looking and going in the wrong direction. I want to give you a nice plan. And you guys are like, that's not good. Like if it's not good, I need to know. I need to know.
No, as a parent of a student that will be graduating, I'm very excited. I will take anything I can get, just like Grant. May it be drive-through or may it be on the football field, may it be whatever.
Yeah, and I hear from other superintendents are like, no way, we're doing a virtual one because the risks are too great, and I understand that philosophy. I understand the risks being great.
Mm-hmm.
I do, but if we can't if we can't contain these risks, and students can't behave and spectators can't behave in this 1.5 hour setting, then that will be very informative for us.
Mm-hmm.
Nicole, what do you think?
I think you can.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say, I think that's a great idea. I think that the seniors, I can't imagine if I was graduating and not having a ceremony. It's such a huge part of our lives. So I'm very supportive, and I think it's great that all these considerations have been made. I'd like to see it happen for sure.
One more comment, thinking more from the medical perspective. There's plenty of screening questionnaires out there right now. And I would encourage the district to, again, depending on where levels are, if everything's going in the right direction, it may be reasonable to have whoever the escort is to go through a series of questions just for that extra layer of protection. Because again, we know kids are excited if they're able to do this, especially with this anxiety or fear that they weren't going to get to do something. Yes, I agree that we should give them the respect to make good decisions, but sometimes we need that extra layer of questioning in just to make sure. Sometimes people are just not aware of what's going on with their body when they're distracted with, excitement of graduation, for example. Again, this is all hypothetical. Hopefully everyone's super healthy. We're still lucky in the North Country. Our levels of SARS-CoV-2 are very low here, and we want to keep seeing that trend in order to make this graduation happen.
Thank you. It's very, very well received. We appreciate that. We do.
And also, in all honesty, even though I would like to invite more family members, I would be comfortable if it was just parents, not grandma, grandpa, or brothers and sisters, or I think the community would understand. I think our students would understand.
Thank you.
So
Just have to be blended families as well, though, right?
Yes,
right. It may be more than 2 parental units. So.
Right. Exactly. No, I understand. So, but I think limiting the number of participants in the audience is a wise and healthy choice.
Thank you. Doug, Christopher, Ed?
Well, I think like anything else, risk is manageable, right? I mean, there are jobs. I mean, I used to go to a nuclear power plant every day, and so if you're prepared, you can manage the risks. And it sounds like you have a really good plan. With regards to people, a family that lives together are all already exposed together anyway. So I don't know that you know reducing one person out of the same core may make as much of a difference. Uh, like if you have one sibling, I
Yeah.
don't know if that's going
Right.
to make much of a difference anyway, right?
Not necessarily for that family, but it might impact the family next to them.
Well, not if they already carry the same exposure to that immediate family anyway, right? So whether it's me and my wife or me by myself, it's almost like the same unit.
Yeah.
But if you're talking about proximity because of more people, then of
Mhm.
course that would make a difference. But based on all the work that the staff is doing, it sounds like there's tremendous amount of space available, and if we're within the state guidelines, I think it's doable.
The only guideline in flux right here is this gathering, and that's the optimal word here. No gatherings of 10 or more. But like I said, when you go into like our field is way bigger than Aldi's, and I've been in Aldi's, and I know that there was 100 and something people in Aldi's. So what's a gathering? I don't know, and they don't have those safety precautions. So somebody could point to us saying that's a gathering over there. That beach isn't a gathering, and that isn't a gathering. That isn't a, but at Beekmantown, that's a gathering of more than 10. So we've got to get through that hurdle.
And it's a month away, so all of these details will change every week between now and then.
Yeah, for sure. And we wouldn't be opposed to pushing it back into July. And I guess I talked to Principal Bazai about this yesterday. But Grant, is it the date, or is it date sensitive for you, or is it ceremony sensitive for you? And if you're speaking on behalf of the seniors,
I think ceremony is more important than the date. I mean, I think people will be willing to wait. Like if you pushed it back into July, sometimes like people are willing to wait, I think, in order to get that ceremony because it's worth it.
right? Like if we knew phase 3, we're going to get to phase 3 at the end of July, and it gives us a little more cover. That might be worth it.
Right. Or, yeah. Even if the likelihood's, so much higher, like we're definitely going to get to phase 3, a couple weeks later, then it's worth the delay.
Thanks. Doug, Christopher?
I like the idea. The only thing that I would consider is and be stringent on is the number of participants, mom and dad, and if they're not together, significant other. Not grandma, grandpa, brother, sister. Got to limit the people in those stands. And on your comment, Ed, if mom is the same as dad. I mean, they're in it together. But grandma and grandpa, that may be something different.
Yeah.
So that would be only my biggest concern is mom and dad and significant other, and limit the spectators. That's all.
Yeah.
But definitely give those kids their due.
Yeah, I agree with Doug on that. I think, and what Ed said about, essentially the family unit being one biome, being one likelihood of risk does not increase whether you're bringing mom and dad or just dad. But yeah, when you extend it to extended family members, then we'd end up in trouble potentially. And you're also exposing potentially the elderly and the vulnerable to the virus. So yeah, we've got to do crowd management and spatial awareness situation. So
Yeah, absolutely.
in general, I'm in favor.
Thank you. We'll keep working on the plan. I thank everybody for their feedback. I'm sure we'll reach out to Mike and get some feedback from Mike and Mark and whoever else is in here. All credit goes to Matt. Matt's worked really hard on this. I was like, we need to grid the field out. And it was like half an hour later, he had the field gridded out. So he's been wonderful. And I appreciate Grant on your feedback you've been giving as a sounding board for your peers. So I'm almost done. I have one last thing. Governor Cuomo said today summer school will be provided digitally, so that will be something different for us to tackle with our special education summer school, and we won't be doing a regents review because the August regents have been canceled. So I am done. Thank you, everybody.
Jennifer Parliament, do you have anything else that you would like to add?
No, I'm good.
All right, excellent. Next, our ex officio student board member, Grant Decker. Do you have a report for us today?
I do, actually.
Thank you, Grant.
Okay, so I'll start with Beekmantown Elementary. They have their finalized plans for returning student belongings, and teachers will be following guidelines put in place to ensure safety for students as they pack up. Parents will be coming to get the items on June 4th and 5th, following a plan to ensure social distancing and safety. The school year is quickly winding down, and teachers just finished their last progress reports of the year. Families will be receiving those in the coming days. Students and teachers continue to work hard each day to cover material and learn together digitally. And the groundswork outside the principal's office and main lobby looks great, and it's now completed on the buildings and grounds. For Cumberland Head, not much has changed since last week, obviously. So they're currently in week 11 of digital learning. Students and teachers are accustomed to the routines put in place. Like we said at the last meeting, counselors are doing weekly check-ins with their families throughout the district, actually, as well, and offering words of encouragement and coping strategies. Students are staying engaged with each other with distance learning, through like Google Meets. And then the grade level is still doing Friendship Friday, where the teacher organizes friendship groups for students to chat and share. They have scavenger hunts, dance parties, and invited guest speakers during Google Meets for kids. And then they're still working on ways to celebrate milestones of students. So it's things like fifth grade graduation and kindergarten kids, and they're looking forward to a strong finish. Next up is Beekmantown Middle School. They're still recognizing student achievement. So the middle school is continuing to perform well with 279 students achieving high honor roll, and they still have an average 93% participation rate, which is great. The middle school continues to recognize students with virtual presentations of Growth Mindset Awards for quarter 3 in place of the Eagle Pride Assemblies. They're normally monthly. Team and special area teachers selected 2 students to receive Growth Mindset Awards in recognition of their effort and achievement throughout the 3rd quarter, and each team elected to present the award to students in a variety of creative ways using pre-recorded messages and live Google Meets. And those presentations were shared with students and their families, and then students were recognized on Eagle Pride News, the weekly update, Twitter, and the Facebook page. Regarding CFES Brilliant Pathways in the middle school, they're continuing work with that group. So during virtual learning, CFES Brilliant Pathways, Mallory and Brett have worked heavily with 7th grade Team Ascent, as well as school counseling at the school counseling office. Team Ascent fellows created videos, assignments, and platforms for students to submit and share work. The assignments followed the book series surrounding goal setting and perseverance, 2 of CFES's essential skills. And in addition to that, they facilitated 2 athlete hours where students get the opportunity to sit in a Q&A session with current and former college athletes, which is that's cool. And then a Friday at 3, Beekmantown will host the final athlete hour with students from Massachusetts and Vermont, where there will be a number of big name guests. Social emotional well-being in the middle school. The counseling department creates lessons to be integrated in core classrooms, so all middle students engage in the lesson. Lessons have included a letter to future self and relaxation and grounding techniques. In addition to the lessons, the counselors post mindful minutes in the counseling Google Classroom to find time to facilitate small group counseling sessions and circle ups through Google Meets. Lastly, for the middle school, for helping the community, 7th grade students have been working on helping to support the community by working on several different projects over the course of the last month or 2. One of those projects is the North Country Honor Drive, and this Saturday, students and teachers have coordinated a food drive with the North Country Honor Flight and United Way. So from 10 to 12, fire departments around the North Country will receive non-perishable food items, hygiene, and household supplies, and more can be found out about this with details on the BMS Eagles Care Facebook page. Lastly, for the high school, The high school has experienced an almost 95% attendance rate through distance learning. It's awesome. This is because of daily work from teachers, administrators, and counselors that have put tons of work into calling, collaborating, and providing academic and emotional support to students. And all teachers are conducting daily Google Meets with teachers interacting and modeling for students key content within the curriculum and ensuring the continuity of learning. Students have experienced high rates of academic success in the third quarter, with 342 students achieving honor roll. More specifically, honor roll with distinction, which is 95 and above, 87 students. High honor roll, which is 90 to 94 average, 128 students. And honor roll with 127 students.
Hey, Grant.
Grant, you turned your microphone off. Welcome back.
I don't know how that happened, but the paper hit it. I didn't know it was possible. Anyway, a lot of students got honor roll. So supports for the fourth quarter are will be accessible tomorrow for students and families via School Tool. And the high school is in the process of compiling footage for a video to recognize the top 10% students as well as scholarship recipients. And each top 10% student has submitted a video of their favorite academic moment as well as their future plans. And these videos will be compiled with a speech from Principal Bazzaio as a memorable keepsake for the hard work of the top 10% of this year's graduating class. And then last thing for the high school and overall, the scholarship video will encompass video clips from the scholarship committee representatives, a congratulatory speech from Principal Bazzaio, and presentations of scholarship recipients. Both video presentations will be professionally compiled with the backdrop of a decorated auditorium stage, and the high school is excited to recognize the hard work of everyone within. And that's the end of mine.
Well, thank you very much. Anyone have any questions or comments for Grant? All right, thank you very much, Grant.
Thank you.
May it be resolved that the superintendent of schools recommends to the Board of Education to approve the following minutes. May I have a motion, please?
I'll motion.
Okay.
Oh, that was everybody. Doug, motions? I'm at a meeting. I can't talk, Olivia. I can't talk. I'm in a meeting. Bye. Oh, sorry. I hope you couldn't hear her response.
Crystal will second.
Thank you, Crystal. Any questions or discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right, excellent. Thank you. Noes, abstains, resolution passes. May it be resolved that the superintendent of schools recommends to the Board of Education that the following resolutions on this consent agenda, appointments and terminations, be and are hereby approved. May I have a motion, please?
Motion.
Thank you, Pauline. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Doug. Do we have any questions or discussion?
No.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Noes? Abstains? Resolution passes. May it be resolved that the superintendent of schools recommends to the Board of Education that the following resolutions on this consent agenda, 2019, 2020, revised school calendar and COVID-19, be and are hereby approved. May I have a motion, please?
Crystal, motion.
Motion to Crystal. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Oh, who was that?
Nicole.
Nicole, seconds. Any questions or discussion?
No.
All right, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Excellent. Noes? Abstains? Resolution passes. May it be resolved that the superintendent of schools recommends to the Board of Education that the following resolutions on this consent agenda: 2020, 2021 proposed budget and 2020, 2021 property tax report card be and are hereby approved. Joanne, may I have a motion, please?
I'll motion.
Thank you, Doug. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Pauline seconds. Thank you. Is there any questions or discussion? Seeing, do you have a question? Okay. Seeing that there's no questions, may I please have a roll call vote, Joanne?
Douglas Beebe,
Yes.
Kathy Buckley,
Yes.
Michael Hagedorn, Ed Marin,
Yes.
Christopher Michaud,
Yes.
Crystal Palmer,
Yes.
Nicole Pupor,
Yes.
Mark Sand, Pauline Stone.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Next, we are on additional items to discuss. We have an athletic committee that we put together in our last meeting where we were actually face to face. We did have 4 board members that volunteered for that committee. After some consideration, it's pretty obvious that 4 board members is a little overwhelming for the size of this committee. So we reduced it to 3 individual board members to participate. That is Douglas Beebe, Michael Hagedorn, and Ed Marin. I want to thank everyone for volunteering. I appreciate it very much. And I look forward to the outcome of that collaboration. The next topic is budget hearing.
Yes, so the budget hearing is on a week from today, May 28th, and it will be very, very similar. It's not a board meeting. If 5 board members do log in, then we will call a meeting to order, which is not a problem at all. But I don't want I just want you to be aware it's going to be, there's nothing, really nothing different, certainly nothing dramatically different that's going to be presented at that hearing. We're still, I don't even think, like, even if the governor came out with something on Monday or Tuesday, he's not going to do it on Monday, but if he does something soon, we probably wouldn't adjust. We wouldn't adjust anything. All that would impact, could impact reductions, but we probably would be in a holding pattern until September because we may have federal monies coming in. So don't expect anything different. It's a very, very similar presentation. I just want to be clear too. So what I talked about earlier is, and it's a tragic number. I totally understand it. 20 individuals will no longer be working at Beekmantown. But there's other folks, there's other positions that aren't going to be here at Beekmantown, and there'll be people switching positions. It can be very complicated. But in reality, there'll be probably 40 changes, or there'll be areas of reductions in a lot of different areas. But at the end of the day, for me, the important thing to say to you is there's going to be 20 people that, were working here at the end of last year, or were working here in beginning of March thinking, this is my career, and they will be put on a reduction list or not coming back to Beekmantown in some way. So that's the bad news. That's what I want to make sure people are aware of.
Is there anything else?
Yeah, so I was looking to add, I'm sorry, we didn't put it on, we did talk about it last time, is the ELA program. Do we want to wait and talk about it? It'd be hard to talk about it in June, but we could do something more formal in June. I know you had the recommendations from the two principals, and I didn't know if it's something that we'd like to talk about soon.
Sure. I mean, I guess I'll make a comment. I appreciate both principals taking the time with their staff to go over that. I guess my question specifically about, we're talking about the ELA, the reading program, right? Just so I'm not misspeaking. At the elementary level. I guess my concerns were, I understand this is usual practice. Every X number of years, a new system is employed, or a new system is purchased, excuse me. I guess my questions just are, with budget crisis, is that still something that is recommended? Is the current system not working for the students? And I guess those were my questions about it specifically.
Yeah, those two really good questions. So, and I welcome other board members' opinion on this, because what I try to do is make sure that I'm taking the majority opinion, and usually that's through resolution, and implement it. But certainly when these scores came out at the end of last year that were trending down significantly, we brought forward that this could be the result of a number of issues. We heard in public session that early on the conversation that the program itself is outdated, and it was in year 6 since we had purchased it. And then we heard from the teachers that the program itself was outdated. How can this wasn't nobody said this, but the mindset could be, we don't have great materials. If we don't have great materials, we're not going to have great results. That was said, and that's awful hard as to say, well, let's get a lot better, but we're going to keep giving you something that you're not really believing in, right? When you're sharing with us that this is antiquated material. So how can you expect me to get better if you don't give me better material? So that was said in public. That was put in writing to me. In a different, they didn't say explicitly like I just summed it up, but they did put in writing to me. The budget crisis is it is a real budget crisis. There's absolutely no doubt about that. But our mission stays the same and our goals stay the same. And we need teaching at a high level. It's going to be more difficult now than it was before. And I don't want to have the reason being, well, now it wasn't, you weren't giving me the good materials then, you didn't give me to me again, and the class size has gone up. It's something we definitely need to do. And when I take a look at the expenditure and you put that out over 6 years and over 1,000 students each year, the expenditure for the reward or for what we need to do as a school district is not exorbitant. It's something we need to invest in, every so often. And we'll have as I say all the time, we're going to have tough budgets in subsequent years. But that doesn't mean that the only thing we invest in are, the salaries and health insurance. We still have to invest in some professional development, some other types of resources to make sure we stay cutting edge. And quite frankly, we want to be really good, and we got to have really good materials to be really good, and more importantly, really good teachers.
Thank you.
I will, after you made that point, Chris, it got me thinking. Elementary is one of those places where it's one of the most critical places for kids to learn to read, and how that sets them up for the rest of their life, right? It's really foundational in every respect. Having said that, I remember being involved when we went to the new program, and how how much it was touted to be something to help out so much. And at the end of the day, it just seems like the biggest part that makes an impact is the educator than the material. I mean, it's still pretty good material. So your point's well taken that in a time of crisis, that line item, what does that do? I mean, it's not going to bring a bunch of people back because it's only for 1 year. But are we putting all our faith in the material as trying to solve a problem that's not really in the material? And we could, we've been improving ELA several years, but we can still do better. And I'm not so sure that it's the material that we're using, that there's got to be other factors. So I'm a little on the fence still. I'm a little on the fence with respect to being, conscious about your finances versus what we have versus people instead. I don't know.
Yeah. So you bring up very good points. And certainly when we purchased Journeys back then, we looked at all these other state metrics and we looked at the research they had, and Journeys was a research-based proven instrument right about the time Common Core was really kicking off, and it was like Journeys or the modules. But like we talked about before, over time, standards change and offerings change, and there seem to be improvements. And there's research out there on really good materials, and it was pointed out to us, and it was correct, that the research shows that our current materials, while once at a higher level, are no longer at that higher level. So that is, whoever does the research on this, and it is documented, and the principals and the committee did a really good job of looking and really vetting out two offerings that are research proven to be better. But you're 100% right. I mean, it's never having good tools, having really good tools certainly helps a great craftsman. But at the end of the day, if you're a poor craftsman, you have great tools, you're not going to have an amazing product. But if you give a really good craftsperson, a really good educator, really good tools, that's sometimes when the magic can happen. Now, we have really good educators that you can give a phone book to, and they could probably teach math and reading. And that's the magic of being a great educator. So you do have that, cost benefit analysis, and then that dilemma that does hang out over this. But the reality is, this could potentially bring back 2 teachers for 1 year. Is that the impact you want when you could have really good materials for, 5 or 6 years during a crisis? Because if we don't do it now, we're not going to be able to do it next year. Like that, and I'm trying to read the future, and how can you do that? I have a general awareness. I know what's left in this year's budget because of the things we haven't been able to do. That is not going to be left in next year's budget.
Dan, operationally, what is our risk with the state as far as our validity by not using materials that have the up-to-date specs that they require us to have?
Well, if in fact it was the materials, and if in fact we don't bolster our achievement whenever we test again, right? So we didn't have a test this year. And again, we brought up a bunch of different areas that this could be related to computer-based testing. You guys are very well aware of what happened there. Vendor scoring, a lot of different areas, right? But if you have poor performance for a number of years, somebody comes in and they start, kicking the tires and looking under the hood and telling everybody what to do. It's a really tough, rigorous process, and nobody enjoys it. And they'll probably put in writing that you need to look at investing in the materials that are proven, research-based materials proven to obtain better results. That's kind of intuitive, right?
I have a quick question. I read a little bit about the difference between the two programs that the elementaries are considering. Are you looking for our opinion between the two different types of programming and what type of trend that we would look for as a board?
Yeah, the best thing to do is put it out here, and yeah, more opinions, the better, and questions. That's the purpose of this. Yep.
Oh, all right. I am not an educator, so I truly have no right to evaluate either one, but I do have an opinion. I feel that one thing we did learn from this COVID crisis is how important it is to utilize technology and how important it's going to be for the future of our students. So I have a tendency to lean towards the ELA program that has more technology, and to me that seems like it would there'd be more, not just reading lessons, but life lessons and how to continue on with technology in students' future. So if this was a wonderful economy and cost was no issue, I would have a tendency to lean towards a program that, to me, parallels the values of our digital one-on-one initiative. It seems to me that would be more cohesive with their education. But that's my personal opinion from what I've read.
Yeah, that's what we're looking for.
Okay. But I totally agree with Crystal, and I also agree with Ed. So, I mean, it's fearful. Nobody wants to spend a penny right now, but I understand. I mean, if we're not investing in the education of the students and in our district, then we're failing them. So, I don't want to spend any money, but I don't want to stop investing in the students of this district either.
Right.
Well,
I guess
Catherine,
my consideration.
We're all here.
If you're talking about investment, if you look at the dollar spent on this as a proportion of our overall budget, it's also probably some of the most important dollars spent ever in an institution too, right? Reading at a primary level, it's really where it starts.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to consider the added value going forward as an investment with what we have.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I guess my point just was, is the current system good enough? Is it educating our students? It sounds like the information is it's not good enough. Our students deserve a better learning platform. And if it's already in the budget, or the money is available, so to speak, and it's not going to be available in the next year, I mean, sure, it makes sense to me to go ahead and go forward. Yeah, we all want like the best, the bells and whistles of programming. I guess I'm just hopeful that 6 years from now we're not in the same position saying, oh geez, that was a terrible program. I wish we had invested in it. We don't know that, right? Nobody knows that. I just
Right.
I just make sure that it's not the company who is selling this product that is saying that
Well,
it's an independent data is my point.
So the research is independent, and it is vetted. But make no mistake about it, all these companies always want to change the standards because these companies want to sell different product all the time. So I would think 6 years from now, this would be something that's hopefully good, but there would be new standards and be like, oh, we've got to be doing this for kids, and I would anticipate that. Seems to be, in my years of education, it seems to be the.
What about the impact? What about the impact of just a change itself? I remember there was conversation last time we did this of there's a learning curve as well when you first get a new system. Now, one of them, we've had them before, so for the people that have been here for a while, it may not be as big of a transition.
Yeah, it's a lot of work to. It's a lot of work to know how to utilize a program like this effectively. There's a lot of similarities to some of these programs, but it is a lot of work in the professional development, which is always included in the process. is really important. And I know I always thought we did a really good job with the professional development with Journeys, and we would look to our principals to ensure both digital resources are available for our teachers and, hopefully some type of in-person, nice collaborative PD would be available as well. So that's the professional development. If you don't have that, if you just buy it, we know this for anything. And the digital initiative was very telling on this. And just about anything, if you just buy it and say, here, go figure it out, it becomes a very wasteful product. But if you take the time and maximize the learning for the adults in the investment in the product, then a lot of times you can do a lot with one particular purchase. And we haven't there's other things we've purchased, and we are looking to maximize our investment in those products. Like I think it was Learning A to Z we utilized last year, and we really put a lot of professional development into that. And I think there's still growth there. And that's a digital reading platform that our teachers like. It's not a series like we're talking about, but it helps you with certain components. But you've got to put the PD in, you got to get people in there, and then you got to share, or it just becomes something that maybe we're going to use a little bit and nobody really knows how to maximize. That's the key.
I'd agree with you, Dan. If you buy a software program that these teachers have no idea how to get from their hands to the students' hands, it's worthless. And
yeah,
that's just my opinion, but I think that is the biggest deal, is to get your teachers to get this program into your students' hands efficiently.
Yeah. Efficiently and effectively. And I know the principals probably hate it when I'm like, well, what's going to be the professional development plan? We go back and forth on the PD plan and the implementation dates and the specifics of the implementation. And, people, this process, we're always process driven, but if you don't have that, then things get missed. And so our principals are really good about doing it. It's a kind of a bit of a pain. It's the grind of that particular work, but the results for that effort are, again, maximizing a program so that you can utilize it efficiently and effectively. That would obviously be the goal. And it wouldn't be just a one-time professional development either with this program. It would be something that we would have to, in the very few dollars we have, we would focus that investment on our largest investment, focus our PD investment on our largest investment and our most meaningful investment. Ed is right. If we're not teaching kids to learn to read, they're never going to be able to read to learn. And that's the key for when you're in 8th grade, 9th grade, 12th grade. Can you read in the rest of your life? Can you read this and be able to learn and implement something else, whether it's biology, chemistry, math, whatever it is? So that's the investment that we would have to make for this particular new purchase. That's what I believe. I would be willing to listen to, obviously any other board members, and then maybe ask the principals to weigh in on what they're hearing.
I want to say too that after reading both of them, they really both are excellent programs from what I understand. I do just have a tendency to lean more towards what is more consistent with the goal of the district. And that's the main reason why I deviate from the other program. So I just want to make sure that everyone knows I really did appreciate both programs. It's just my personal value system is to stay consistent with the district's digital one-on-one.
Thank you.
Okay. Nicole or Pauline, did you want to add anything about or questions that you had about the two ELA reading programs that were presented, or that they're trying to decide between the two?
I'm just wondering, is with everything going on, and of course the students, there are some students that they're going to have to go back and teach. I mean, the teaching when they go back to school this fall is they're going to have to make up a lot of stuff. Is there going to be time for the teachers to get on board with this and, have the time with everything else going on to to get on board with it.
Right. It's good. Something they definitely have to consider. And it may be a longer implementation process or an understanding between the principals, all the stakeholders, the teachers, principals, parents, kids, you guys, of, okay, normally we would do this all over this time period, but because of everything that's blocking us, you'd have to, push out your expectations to, have it for a year. Well, it's like what we did with digital teaching and learning. We invested a year in professional development in just a small number of people. And then we did the same thing in the next number of people. So, normally you try to do this all in a few months over this end of the school year and into the summer. You probably need to push it out more because of everything we're facing.
Any other questions or comments concerning?
Darcy, Sarah, is there anything you wanted to weigh in on?
No, looks like we're good.
Sarah, do you want to say something?
No, I mean, I think I just appreciate everybody taking the time to look over what we wrote up. We certainly worked very hard with the committees, and just like you all said, both programs do have benefits, and the teachers will certainly bring highly effective and professional learning to the students with either program. But I think, as Ed pointed out, the value of the teacher in the classroom is huge, and I certainly think that one program offers a greater degree of teacher growth as an educator versus the other program, which is where I see the difference in the value of the two. But they both have their shortcomings, and one does have a stronger tech component. But I think we also need to look at it as, teaching of reading. We certainly want to have quality literature and books in our students' hands as our primary concern when we're looking at a reading program. Our current program through Journeys, our current program through Journeys does have a digital component, but I do know that teachers have been finding other ways to work with our students through this time for reading instruction. So I do think that, there's positives and negatives to both of them, and I think it's certainly a tough decision.
Thank you, Sarah.
All right. Is there anything else that we'd like to add? Oh, there's Darcy.
Again, thank you for reading over our thoughts. And I think I expressed myself on where I stood with the program that I would like to see the district go in that sort of direction. Of course, there's always pluses and minuses to every program, and it is really about the teacher delivering and how we can best, help and support our teachers and develop their knowledge in reading. And I think either program, we would have the opportunities to do so. And again, it's giving teachers time to learn it and practice it, and making sure we support them and constantly monitor how our students are doing with the programs. Again, there's pluses and minuses to both of them, and I think we just kind of have to weigh in with what works with our district. And I think that's it. So thank you again, and I appreciate your time and your consideration.
Thank you. All right. That's all I have. That's all we have on that issue. So I'll probably be working on that between now and our next board meeting and bring something to you.
All right, excellent. All right. Is there anything else that we need to add to this meeting? All good? Okay. We will not be having an executive session, so we will not do clerk pro tem. We will go straight to 8 of 9 to adjournment. May it be resolved that the Board of Education adjourn this meeting. May I have a motion, I'm sorry, at 7:55? May I have a motion, please?
I'll motion.
Motion by Doug. Second? Second, second by Nicole. She was quicker with the hand, Pauline. Any questions or discussion before we leave? All in favor? Aye. All right, thank you very much. Noes, abstains, resolution passes. Have a great night.
Thanks, Kathy. Thanks, everybody.
Bye, guys. It's nice to see you all. Bye.
Thank you. Bye. Good to see you.
Bye, Grant.
Bye.